So I bought my first home at the age of 24, and the reason is, it's just what you do. And you think about it, okay? I learned so many valuable lessons over the past year and a half or something like that, like after actually owning a home. And the first thing is that the advice you get about owning a home is a great investment. Okay, it's a no-brainer investment. It usually comes from people that tend to be poor. And I want you guys to think about that. Who gives you that advice? The person, for example, with $1 million net worth, or is it the person with a $4 net worth and a $500,000 mortgage? It usually is the person that doesn't really have any money and just has a massive mortgage, okay? Because it tends to try to justify it saying, hey, this right here is an asset, but it's not really the whole truth. So in this video, I'm gonna share with you guys my mistakes, okay? And they're kind of embarrassing, but overall, it is the truth. Some of it is ugly, some of it is pretty, but it is the truth. And if I can actually help you avoid some of these mistakes, then I'm glad I paid the price so you don't have to. And as always, guys, like this video and tap out also subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified. Now, the very first thing, guys, that I learned is it's all hype. It sounds like it's a great investment because, hey, if you invest your money in land, it never goes away. If you buy a house, guess what? People will always need to rent. But overall, when people talk about those things, they're not talking about renting. They're talking about buying a personal property. And everyone thinks that, hey, Tommy, real estate appreciates by 3 to 5% for the past decades or a ton of time, okay? So it's a great investment, but people don't talk about everything else that goes into real estate and all the costs and all the expenses. So it's something called, for example, called break-even point. And break-even is when you basically don't really make any money, but you break even. That's the whole idea, okay? And everyone thinks that, hey, I know about someone that bought a house for $1 and sold it for $1 million. That's going to be you too. The answer is that's usually not true. And here's why. You buy a home, what do you pay? Okay, what do you pay? You pay interest. You pay taxes, you pay insurance, you pay maintenance, you pay upgrades, you pay PMI, you pay all these things. And when you think about it, you have 3 to 5% appreciation, but potentially when you actually sell this home, you might be in a down market, so consider that also. But more than all those things is the opportunity cost of all those expenses that are involved in that property. So if you had grabbed that money and invested it and made, for example, 10% or 12%, that would have been a lot more. So when you think about it, okay, with a home, you only really tend to break even, okay? That's why Dave Ramsey says you make money on a home when you buy it, not when you sell it. And that makes a lot of sense because it basically means if you buy a home and you know it's worth $150, try to buy it for $130 or $120. This way you made home on the buying. You don't try to make home money on the sale when the time comes. It can take a very long time and there are a lot of costs associated with actually owning a home. So what's the benefit of actually having a home, you say? The answer is, well, first of all, it lowers your cost of living. I have my own home. I paid for it in cash and I don't have living expenses anymore. I pay insurance. That's it. Don't even pay taxes, okay? And some maintenance, but that's it. My home is my home. That's awesome. It gives me more security and allows me to go ahead and invest for money. The money I used to pay for rent, I can basically just pay for investments, but I could have just invested that money and made more money. So it's like, you see what I'm saying here? There's so much cost. You think it's a no-brainer, but you tend to break even. It's like you told me, Tommy, here's $10, invest it for me. I charge you fees. I give you 100 10 years later, but you don't find out that basically you could have made more somewhere else, okay? That's the idea. Now, number 2 is it keeps you stuck. A home is not like, for example, a stock. A stock you buy, you sell whenever you want to, okay? A home, unless you have a trailer or one of those mobile homes, you're not gonna be able to move it. So my goal is, or my advice is, unless you're gonna stay in a home for 3 to 5 years, I don't recommend you actually buy one. Because once you actually own a home, guess what happens? You are stuck in that place. And right now, my uncle told me when I bought that home, he told me, Tommy, you're buying that home now, and in a few years, you're going to be thinking about selling it. And he knew that because he knew that I was only staying where I was staying for a while I got something sorted, and he knew it wasn't probably going to be a good idea, but he let me enjoy the mistake because he told me, he counseled me, and I still did what I wanted to do, and I made a mistake. And the idea is if you're not gonna stay there for a fixed amount of time, at least over 5 years usually, it doesn't really make much sense to actually buy a home. And now I find myself saying, do I sell this home like now or do I sell it 2 years later? And the answer is I'm gonna wait a little longer. I'm gonna enjoy the low cost of living, but in the meantime, I could have just been better off just renting somewhere and staying there and not having that much responsibility as far as moving around and not have to worry about the maintenance of a home, okay? Now, number 3 is, guys, everything, and I mean everything, is just waiting to break. I mean the poop stuff, the shower stuff, the water stuff, electric stuff, the AC stuff, everything in that house is waiting to break. I used to complain all the time, like, oh, I pay for rent and I broke the AC. This lady wants $250 to fix it. That's crazy. That's insane. But guess what? When the AC breaks, I gotta fully replace it, okay? Everything in the home is fully my responsibility. So I rather, for example, just rent, be partially responsible, but the actual property in itself is not my responsibility. And I'm capped out at a certain amount of money that I'm responsible for. That is awesome, okay? So when you think about it, yeah, it does have its benefits. Again, it lowers your cost of living, but don't see it as an investment, okay? Because it's really not. But the whole idea is when you're renting for a while, and by the way, I'll tell you at the end of the video when to actually buy a home. All right, because there is a time to buy a home, but that's the point. Renting is not a bad idea because you're not responsible for everything with this property. Now, number 4, guys, is don't fall in love with the property. I made so many changes. I made it nice. I made it pretty. I changed the kitchen. I changed the bathroom. I remodeled this. I remodeled that. And it was so stupid because I should have just kept the whole thing vanilla and plain, and I would have saved so much money. And when the time came to basically move, I would have sold it for a good price, and that would have been the end of the story. But now I have a lot of money in that property. I'm talking about like at least $10,000 over what it's potentially worth. And that's not a good feeling because now you're like thinking like, okay, so that's 10K down the drain. So my advice to you is don't fall in love with the property. Don't think it's gonna be your forever home because the average person moves out every 5 years and that's a fact. So just be smart. Get what you need and don't go crazy. And whenever they're going ahead to appraise homes, guess what? They're not thinking about, oh, there's marble floors here. All right, we gotta match that value. There's marble countertops. We gotta no, they don't care about the stuff. There's not like a dollar for dollar thing. Most of real estate is just based on location and comparables. Okay, it's not gonna be you have special doors, so you deserve more money. It tends not to be that way. So be very careful with investing too much money into a property and potentially not getting that money back. Now, number 5 is the biggest lesson that I learned of them all is that although I bought something that's not an investment, in reality, everything's about to break at a certain point. I probably spent too much money on fixing things up. Guess what? Overall, it's a better investment to have it, for example, in that asset than it would be to have it in a liability overall, because my money is still there. My money is still safe. If I want to grab that property, turn it into a rental, I can do that. That's monthly income. There's still money that's basically being like earned every single year via appraising, and there's still all these factors, but overall it's just a break-even deal. But for me personally, someone like me that's kind of young, doesn't have a family yet, just didn't make any sense. I could have just rented for a while, kept that money invested, and just be fine for a little longer. So when is the perfect time to buy a home? The answer is, like Warren Buffett says, you buy a home when you need one. So that means for me, when I sell this home, if I do, you never know, only God knows. When I sell this home potentially, and I have the money in my hands, again, the answer is I'm not gonna buy a home until I need one. That means when I'm ready to start a family, I'm ready to have like a wife and kids and so on, I'll buy a home. The home my wife wants and we want, okay? Because then it makes sense, right? And I'm planning to stay somewhere for a long time and I have more stability in the sense of like, not financial stability, but the sense that I have, for example, I know we want to live here and want to stay here for a while, like at least 5 years or so. That makes financial sense. But just buying for the sake of buying because you're young and you're like, this is the next step to take, it's very stupid. Don't do that. Makes no sense. But guys, that is it. These lessons have cost me thousands of dollars. I hope they don't cost you thousands of dollars because when I received this advice, it's not like I didn't know this stuff. I knew it. I knew this stuff. And in my defense, I really did think I was gonna stay there for like 5 years or so. I really did think that, but things tend to change. So right now I'm like in this diversion of like, I might stay there longer, I might not stay there longer. And it's not like I lost money per se because I'm still making money by having that home. So it's like I'm still gonna break even, okay? Because at least I was smart in that sense. But yeah. That's what I got to tell you guys. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified. Comment down below how. And remember, what the average person does is not necessarily the right thing. All right? Thanks for watching. Up here is another banger. Here's my face. This rabbit, as always, long-term team officially out.